Hello, everyone. Today we are here to talk about a very interesting and debatable topic, mainframe modernization. We are here to talk about two heroes, one of the older age, that was the mainframe systems in older compute era, and today's hero, that is the data lakes, which is the most discussed topics in any conference. It could be a law conference, it could be a data conference, it could be a cyber conference, anywhere, proving them to be a clear leader in the space today. Now, here, talking about mainframe, Platform 3 Solutions has a complete set of products, which is called the Archon Suite, which contains a fully fledged data lakehouse solution, which is Archon Data Store, together with its add-ons with Archon Analyzer and Archon ETL. It makes up for a fully fledged end-to-end, wholly integrated data lakehouse platform, which provides all that you could ask for. So, today to talk about this, I have a very special guest who himself can be considered legacy, and hence he's here to talk about legacy, Mr. Karkavel Jegadeesan. He is my boss, the co founder of the company, and the CTO. Karka comes from a wealth of experience working on both mainframes as well as data lakes, and he is here to share all that he can and agree to all of my points when I say that data lakes are the next generation of the data compute industry. Karka?
So, Saumya, let me start by saying that we are not here to discuss about why we should not use mainframes. Mainframes still offer very powerful solutions for enterprises. If you must know, they are one of the most reliable systems in the world today. They have an availability of 99.9995 percentage, which means that they basically go down 5 minutes in a year. Okay, they are also extremely secure. They are the only systems which allow data to be encrypted and then stored and encrypted and accessed. It's a unique offering that mainframes provide. 87% of credit card transactions today still run on mainframes. So they are undeniable in what they provide to support organizations. They do have their challenges, and we are, actively seeing a lot of organizations move out of mainframe and into more modern infrastructure, and we are here to support them. But we should always understand that mainframes offer very reliable, secure, and great ecosystems for large-scale data processing. Okay? They are one of the only systems that can still, do about 2.5 billion transactions per day, and that's a lot, right? So mainframes are not there to go. Data lakes, while they still offer some unique capabilities, they cannot completely replace mainframes. What my take here is. So as we move forward in the discussion, right, I think we should talk about what are the challenges of mainframes, how and in what area can data lakes actually find or can actually replace mainframes. What an what an ideal enterprise portfolio would look like, and what is the journey of modernization of a mainframe system? What you need to do uh, to replace a mainframe systems, and when you cannot replace a mainframe systems, and when systems can coexist. So to discuss all of that, we have about 25 minutes to make the best use of the time. We will give you guys a lot, a lot of exciting information, and hopefully, some good knowledge as we go through this LinkedIn live. So welcome all. And Soumya, why don't you start by talking about why you think mainframes need to be replaced or why they are considered legacy? Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Well, we kicked off very well, me making a point and you correcting me on it. So, coming back to you on that. So, my biggest challenge with mainframe are maybe the top three challenges. Okay. The first one being interoperability and integration. The challenges with integrating them to other analytic systems. Now, the way that today the entire data operations are done is that there has to be a discovery component, a profiling component, then there has to be an ETL component associated with it, then there has to be a data mart or data enrichment and analytics component associated with it, and then there has to be reports, and that's how all the data pipelines are made today, right? And considering that with mainframes, there is hardly any they do not really allow agility to provide information and to provide integrations from the outside systems to the inside. So how I described a typical data pipeline, it becomes really difficult and siloed.
So, Soumya, let me just stop you there for a minute. So, integrations with mainframes are challenging, no questions about that. We worked on a very recent project where, we were trying to pull spool information from a mainframe system to create some reports and analytics in our data lake, right? And they are definitely going to create a little bit of challenge. But what you are talking about is mainly on legacy mainframe systems. The more modern Z mainframes do have some of the integration capabilities, but I do agree with you on one context that integrating with mainframe systems are typically more challenging than, let's say, integrating with a web portal or a completely Web3 application. So uh, you definitely have a point there. What about data science? What do you think about those?
Yeah, so all of that gets siloed, right? Because there is no integration, there is no unification coming together at a point, because of which anything that gets operated within a mainframe stays there, is just, it's there. So even if the governance that happens, it gets siloed. You don't get a centralized governance that you can easily get in a data lake. A data lake, by its name, right? A data lake can just take in whatever you throw at it. So it can take all the types of data formats, all the data put into it, and then it can give you easy accessibility. It can give you easy governance on top of the entire as in data infrastructure, on top of the entire enterprise data. And you can also manage your life cycle, and everything can be, you can make relationships, you can, model the data accordingly. And see, everything, this is important because visualizing an enterprise data has to happen holistically. It cannot happen system by system. And that's exactly when people try to do it system by system, it ends up becoming siloed, duplicated, etc.
But see, data silos are a challenge with mainframe. I accept on that point with you. But think about this, right? They are a boon or a bane. They can be both considered a positive and negative thing simply because some of the times you need to have that silo. You need to have that protection on your very sensitive and critical data. What mainframe essentially does is add those layers of security and protections that makes the data siloed, and it's by design and intention, I would say, rather than by because they have a limitation in their capability itself. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you use your mainframe systems in the right way for your core processing, and then if you're able to integrate them with something like a data lake, an archival system, and bring all your data out at the right time, then I think even though that's a challenge for a mainframe, I see that it also can be considered as an advantage. Just adding that point here. Over to you, Soumya.
So if you look at it that way, yes. But what you are trying to say is micromanage your data streams and your data operations, so that in the bigger picture you you align everything into one data format and then bring it somewhere to a centralized place. I think that's where you're getting at, right?
See, when you think about it, right, if your only true purpose is to unify your governance, data lakes do offer a benefit there. But you don't want to get all your data always into a central repository simply because of what is the value of the data. Now, think about mainframe systems, right? They are particularly built to handle core transactions and the most heavy workloads in an organization, right? But because of that nature, they also tend to grow in size very quickly. Okay, and if you consider an organization, an enterprise that's been around for 30 to 40 years, I'm sure they will have a lot of mainframe systems that were handling print streams and spool files and tertiary functions that were not actually considered core functions. Now, these can be replaced, can be the data can be archived, the systems can be decommissioned, and they are what require modernization. Whereas a mainframe system that is constantly upgraded, that sits on the latest Z mainframe, that handles core transactions, what we need to do there is look at the data that these systems hold. Now, in mainframes, when the data is being actively upgraded, when the data is being actively used, I would call those as, active business data. They still need to sit in the mainframe. They need to be processed. They need to be worked on. But when the system stops updating the data, when the data becomes, for example, a card transaction data that is sitting in a mainframe banking system for more than 30 days, the chance of that data even being accessed is very, very low, right? And then the reporting data, an invoice that is closed and paid, purchase orders that are old, like that are more than 6 months old. A lot of that data still occupy, a mainframe storage, but they don't actually add value because the only real reason or only real value of that data is reporting. They don't have a value in terms of day-to-day operation. So when you are strategically using a mainframe system, it is also very important to set up a live archive and pull business complete and read-only data out of these mainframe systems, bring them into a data lake. So now what data lake offers that mainframes don't offer is, to start with, they are very, very cheaper in managing your data. They will cost you, X times less than the same cost of keeping the data in mainframe. They'll be very actively connected with your BI system of choice, which means real-time analytics, real-time access to the data becomes very relevant. And the most important advantage of why you need to bring those data, on a active basis out of the system is that you don't have to keep investing on the mainframe systems to boost their performance, right? So now that we have talked about this, there are two concepts here. One is the decommission of a mainframe system, and the other one is the modernizing of the mainframe system by actively connecting to them to the data lake. Now, the decommission itself, right? When it happens in the tertiary system, it makes it very, very effective, profitable, because mainframes are expensive. No matter what we say, they are very expensive compared to any other system, right? Moving these tertiary functions of mainframe and maybe into our archival lakehouse gives users a very big advantage. And the most value I see there is, like I said, on moving school files, print streams, payroll systems, HR systems that are still run on mainframe. These are all what I call as tertiary functions, right? And these can be very, very easily replaced with the lakehouse system. Anyway, I think I keep rambling. So, Soumya, what's your take on where mainframes or the data lakes can add advantage in the mainframe modernization pathway?
Well, so you made up for my third challenge, by the way, that is the expensive part of it. So you are adding to my points now. I've influenced you. But so here, the major value the data lakes bring in, I would say, is centralized governance again. Okay, like I was saying, that you have to have all of that data brought together, and which can help you manage that data in like a self start mode. I like to use the word sustainable. It has nothing to do with the environment as such, but sustainability basically is use what you want and don't create extra copies and things like that, right? So it helps you make sure in life cycle management on top of a centralized repository will always help you make sure you're never paying for more than what you want. So I will discuss this. This is very, very contrary to the whole AI data maximization point, but we can talk about that later. That keep what you want. They want you to have more and more. That's better for them. So yeah, so centralized governance is one thing. Then another thing, so talking about what challenges we spoke about, right? Cost effectiveness. Here, in specifically for data lakes, the amount of scaling that you can provide horizontally and compared to how you do it in mainframes, that makes it very, very cost effective. You pay for what you want, and you can easily upscale and downscale based on the number of nodes that you would want. But in mainframe, all you could do, I don't know if that's the right word, is vertical scaling, right? You can just keep making that box bigger and bigger, and you cannot really
Keep
distribute.
adding more mainframes. That's all.
Yeah, you cannot really use distributed computations that you can easily in data lake setup, correct? So
Yep.
if way you switch from a mainframe to a data lake, which I highly encourage you to, it would be for centralizing your data access so that your life cycle is managed better, for making sure that you scale according to what you require, and just prevent all the data silos that you would create in a mainframe.
Absolutely, Soumya. So now let's talk a little about what it actually takes to modernize or to move information out of a legacy mainframe system, right? See, my experience in the last 10 years have been very much with doing this specific activity, across organizations that are trying to move into more modern infrastructure. Modernizing mainframes become a very big challenge for two reasons. One is there is no data custodian who understands the data model in the mainframe systems. In fact, I have had the blessing chance to work on VSAM and exam systems. Very rarely legacy mainframe systems that are basically in file system model, not in a database data structure model itself. So, how to safely migrate from a mainframe system and enable decommission of a mainframe system? That gives its there are I know tons of challenges there, and I know, Swami, you have worked on some of these projects too. So what do you consider as the first part, the analysis part of this mainframe modernization, what we need to look out for, and how we go about this mainframe modernization according to you?
Sure, thank you for asking. Now, the products that that we have built also, right? The entire Archon suite, it comes from whole experience of decommissioning, archiving what's not required, making sure that the governance is set up right. Because of which we were fortunately or unfortunately face to face with oldest technologies every time. Okay, so we were hunting for the talent that is not there in the market. We were saying that we are those people who love doing mainframes and who can take you out of mainframes, right? The first thing that you have to do is discover. Okay, as you rightly pointed out before, is that not all of that data is business active, and you have to identify how much of that data is business complete slash passive, and
We
how
are
much.
talking decommissioning mainframe systems, right? All of the data is business complete. And for this particular scenario, discovery means not just looking at the data, but also looking at the metadata, the stored procedures, views, any other information relating the data so that we can create complete business objects. So what I'm trying to say here is that when you are looking at decommissioning a mainframe system, you cannot just look at how I'm going to get the data out compliantly and decommission the system, but also how I can derive the business value of what this mainframe system did and keep that in my data lake. If you can do that initial analysis, and that's where Archon Analyzer, one of the tools we have, actually creates phenomenal value because we have a built-in connector to actually analyze any of these mainframe systems and
Right.
get all of the value. So getting the data is itself challenging, but it's not as challenging. But getting the business value, understanding the relationships, understanding the primary keys, foreign keys, how your data is connected, and how your data creates value, I think is the most important part of archiving data from a mainframe legacy mainframe systems. Do you agree?
Very true, very true. Exactly. Just taking the data out would be robot with no emotions. So, so it will not perform any functions, because another thing with mainframes is, right, that a lot of business logic is embedded into the scripts, into the COBOL script. So just taking the data out would not make any sense because the relationships are not clear from the schema. That's the difference between modern day databases, even not modern day, regular RDBMSs, and
Right.
the older ones, that there we have schema level relationships where we can make some sense out of it, even if we don't have a subject matter expert to tell how to take this data out. But in case of mainframes, it's just highly cryptic and you have to have the code base to be able to understand. It's all embedded over there. So what we do here, yeah.
No, I'm just saying that analyzing these code bases is almost impossible, right? Simply because you need to have a version control code repository that is actually being utilized, and some of these products don't even have that. So, what do you do in those scenarios?
We have multiple modes of identifying relationships. So there are multiple COBOL script types where we go by the names of the files, by where the column glossary could lie. We identify all of that, and we make sure that that relationship is identified in analyzer through a recommendation pattern, and from there we put it. Sorry.
No, I'm saying that for me, what really works is the idea that you have to look into the data.
Uh-huh.
If you can go look at all the COBOL scripts, but I think you and I both know from experience that that really never gets you anywhere simply because the version control repositories on code bases back then were very dated, and a lot of the products didn't have them, right? So for me, I would say the best way to handle this is by doing a data analysis. If you can actually crawl the data and compare data, like, hey, column A, table A has Raja, and table B, column B also has Raja. So maybe they have a relationship. Going through this kind of a data crawl is the most effective way that I believe that you can derive all the metadata required to archive and decommission the mainframe system.
Right, right. I just remember once when we were doing this for a VSAM system, and we were kind of in a fix because the data was so huge. And considering
Right.
crawling on top of an RDBMS versus considering crawling on top of a VSAM system, it's just additional challenges, right? It's not as easy as select star from table one. So, that time we did go brute force once, if you remember. We went to the copybooks and we were looking at some things. We did get a starting point. Destiny favored us from there, and then we identified that okay, these could be our master tables, and then from there we identified the master tables and which transaction tables could be related to it, files tables, and then we went ahead and crawled only that. So full vanilla 100% crawling sometimes becomes challenging, to be practical with you. It's ideal if we do 100% crawl, all columns to all columns. But yeah, sometimes it works that way.
See, that's about managing legacy mainframe that you want to decommission, right? But let's move from this topic a little bit and let's talk about how we can work on modern mainframe systems. Mainframe systems that are actively handling core banking and actively managing the core transactions of an enterprise. How can we actively manage the data that is being created or managed by these mainframe systems that are essential today to the business operations of an enterprise? Now, my thought here is, there is no decommissioning here, there is no archival here. This is all about how these systems perform and how their performance is managed well. That will be your point number one. The second point would be how you can move out of the data silo challenges that these systems inadvertently create, and how you can use a data lake to unify and create governance on top of that, right? Uh, Saumya, why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yep. I mean, actually, this is my question for you. What is your vision when it comes to modern day core banking? If you are advocating that, are you advocating they should still keep using mainframes?
I absolutely believe they should still be using mainframes, right? So it's not that mainframes are going to go away anytime soon, and they offer these kind of massive advantages. And if an organization has found the right talent to manage these systems, and if they can sustain and build their business on top of them, then there is no value in getting out of these systems simply to be in a more modern infrastructure. I would say continue with the mainframe systems, but create a data lake system in parallel that can take all the business complete data, that can actively archive information from this mainframe systems. For example, from a core banking system, you can talk about taking out all the bank transactions, account transactions. From an ERP system, it could be about all the completed ERP records, which could mean, completed POs or supply chain data, whatever it is, right? So when the data is considered business complete, which means it's not no longer needing to be actively updated, that's the moment you need to push this data out of the mainframe into the data lake, and that will be the modernization that you need to work on top of these mainframe systems. Otherwise, I don't believe that these systems need to be moved out of just because they are considered legacy. That's against what you're thinking, Soumya, I know, but data lakes, even though they offer a lot of challenges, they can, in my mind, they are not built to handle core business transactions. I think you would agree there, right?
Well, not really. I'm not fully sure about that, but I respect your experience if you say that you should not move. But in my real experience, what I have seen is the more you stick on to legacy and you try to make it work, and which eventually it will not. So it will you will end up doing a lot of patchwork on top, making sure that just tweaking this part of the operation or this part of the retrieval process is going to solve my problem. But eventually, when the SME who has done that is not there in the org anymore, you will again, it will come back to bite you, right? So I am a big advocate of long term simplistic solutions that can sustain by themselves. For that reason, I feel that modernizing and being ready for the future is a good option.
Soumya, I do agree with you, but let me summarize this. Right? While moving out of a mainframe system offers advantage when the mainframe system is really old and when it's managing tertiary applications, the cost of migrating out of a core mainframe system is extraordinary. So in those scenarios, the ideal solution would be to keep the mainframe system, keep them for your core operations, but then create a data lake, use a compliant data lake like Archon Data store all of the business complete data, get real-time archival of information from the mainframe into the data lake, and then use the data lake for analytics and reporting. By doing that, you are future-proofing your portfolio and your technology, and it's the right way to take things forward. So there is value in adding an archival system, right, data lake system into your overall portfolio when you want to continue to use your mainframe system. Moving out of mainframe systems itself is a huge discussion. That's a huge cost implication, and maybe organizations are not ready to do it yet, right? So with what we have, I suggest just adding an archival in place into your enterprise is the right strategy to start with, and doing mainframe modernization the right way will make it more successful for you. With that, I think we are at the top of the hour. Soumya, what else would you like to add? If not, we should say thank you to our audience and close this live today.
Yep, you have very diplomatically closed
Go
this.
ahead.
Yep, you can hear me, right? So basically, what you're saying is it doesn't have to be moving from mainframe, doesn't have to be a breakup. It can be a glow up. So that's a good way to close it. And I think that's more practical, because not it's not easy, honestly, to just break out of your age old long strategies, right? So thank you so much, Karka. Very insightful, and thank you for all the fun time. We do these for my audience, we do these recordings and LinkedIn lives and so much more debates on topics like these very often. If you would like to cover anything of such sorts, feel free to drop us a message. If you would like to connect with us for any such problems that you might be facing in terms of legacy infrastructure, modernizing your legacy infrastructure, we are here to help you. Drop in a note or message me on our LinkedIn. We'd be happy to connect. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.